we're going to go to Nicole Raines. And when I think of someone when we're talking about fun and joy, it's something that, I added to these tenets because I thought it was really important that, yeah, we trust you, we provide, co-create these environment, but what about fun and joy? That we could really begin to appreciate each other and really demonstrate that. Um, Nicole, what song rocked your world today?
Blinding Lights by a local DC group known as Black Alley.
All right.
That is the song that is repeating in my head today.
That's really great. So, generative leadership, we talk about the power of fun and joy in fostering creativity, engagement, and a thriving work environment. I mean, share some experiences about that.
Sure, Dr. Dave. Thank you for having me. And just hearing how each tenant and the practices involved with them, it really is looking at how do you create a space in which joy and fun can exist. And all of the tenants that everybody else has talked about are actually creating that environment. So really looking at that linkage. So I used to work at a nonprofit, and we did intensive work based upon trauma. And so when I talk about that, people were like, oh, I can only imagine what the workplace was like. But what happened is our boss created a committee. She used to refer to me as a reluctant leader. I ended up being a co-chair on that committee because I had so much work, and so did my colleagues. But that committee was actually in charge of joy and fun. But you cannot force fun upon people. That is not fun in and of itself. So what we did is we looked at, okay, what do people want to do? We have this committee. What are our strengths? How can people show up in a really authentic and intentional way by showing their strengths? So we had people teaching cooking lessons. It was an hour each Friday. Some people did dance lessons. Some people did visualizations, which that one sounds more stereotypical to therapists. Other times we watched sitcoms. We taught people how to step, which is traditional dance. It's from African boot dance, but it's also involved in the traditionally Black Greek letter organization. So we taught people how to step and just being able to have some movement in there. We did chair yoga. So we did all these things on that designated hour, but throughout the entire workday, we had a little box that was called the I just want to say box. And what that was is for people to be able to write out, they could either sign their name or be anonymous, just something that they wanted to share about a colleague or a coworker. And something as, thanks for listening to me, or you did a good job. And having that continual spirit of recognition. So what we were doing is we were infusing and creating an environment where fun and joy could exist, instead of thinking, oh, okay, well, it's a workspace. We have to be very disciplined. We have to be very serious all the time. But you need to be able to create that environment as well. And I know on the podcast, Dr. Dave, I shared a very personal professional example of working with a child who it actually was my hardest case to date as a clinician, and being able to be working on a very significant amount of complex trauma and taking a very model that's very based on steps, and how do I do that, where is room for that. And it was listening to the client and figuring out what the client wanted, having that collaboration with this child in order to take that model that was developed by an adult therapist and turn it into a flower garden. And each flower represented a different stage in the model. And having a butterfly that was a visual representation of going through that. And I use that example because, especially when we're talking about complex trauma, people don't think, they're like, oh, well, there can't be any kind of joy there. But by collaborating and listening to the client, and joining with that light that was within, we created some joy in that very dark space of being able to move through that. And just recognizing that as we, again, listen to all the tenants and put them together, that we can create this space of joy and fun where they can exist. Not that we're going to come in and say, oh, this is what we're doing for fun, and that we're going to look at and listen to our staff and to our team members and to our clients, and being able to do that. And that's what each tenant has already talked about. So, Dr. Dave, I feel like the framework by itself actually creates an environment where fun and joy can exist.
Man, talking about how to bring that together, huh? Talking about how to bring that together, man, that was beautiful.